few passages in the Bible are as famous as the Ten Commandments. I mean, think about it. Sure, you've got John 3:16, you've got Psalm 23, you've got the Lord's Prayer, you got that story with the snake and the fruit tree, but when it really comes down to it, when push comes to shove, few things get the Cecil B. DeMille treatment like the Ten Commandments do. As a result, they become part of our culture, part of who we are on a deep and profound level. And many Christians these days have gone around claiming that these documents are so important that they should be enshrined in our courthouses, in the halls of Congress. In fact, Georgia Congressman Lynn Westmoreland introduced a bill to have them put on display in federal buildings and courthouses. Here's Congressman Westmoreland in an interview with comedian Stephen Colbert on the subject of the Ten Commandments.
The Ten Commandments is not a bad thing for people to understand and to respect.
I'm with you.
Where better place could you have something like that than in a judicial building or in a courthouse?
That is a good question. Can you think of any better building to put the Ten Commandments in than in a public building?
No.
What are the Ten Commandments?
What are all of them? You want me to name them all?
Yeah, please.
Don't murder. Don't lie. Don't steal. I can't name them all.
I don't know about you, but I might have trouble doing much better than the congressman did. You see, we'd like to talk a good game about the Ten Commandments, but it's a hard task to be able to sit there and rattle off all 10 of them. Go ahead, give it a try. I'll give you a second or two. Let's hear if you can get to all 10 from memory. Yeah, that's about where I petered out too. In fact, when I put the question to our congregation here at Central Christian not too long ago, I was impressed. We were able to name 9 of the Big 10. That's quite a feat. I'm proud of that track record, 9 out of 10. That's well beyond Hall of Fame status, batting 900. But what do we really think the commandments are getting at? What are they doing for us? Why? Why do we hold them so near and dear to our hearts when we have trouble even remembering what all 10 of them are at any given point in time? Well, before we can really get into what the commandments are and why we as Christians should find them important, first we need to talk about what the commandments aren't. First of all, contrary to the idea propagated in the media and put out by Congressman Westmoreland, the Ten Commandments are not the foundation of the American legal system. There's a document out there, considerably younger than the Ten Commandments, called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta serves as the foundation, or at least one of them, for the U.S. Constitution. You'll notice this document here looks a lot more like our current Constitution than does this document right here. Whereas these are kind of neat and fun to look at, they are not the foundation of the American legal system. On top of that, they're not particularly appropriate for display in our public buildings either, and I'll tell you why. The United States Constitution prohibits preferencing one religion over and against another, saying that one's right in the face of others. And you may not think this is a big deal. After all, the Ten Commandments are held near and dear by Christians and Jews alike. That's at least 2 of the major religions here in the United States, right? Well, you run into a couple different problems in displaying them publicly and respecting diversity of religious tradition. First, you have to pick a particular translation you're going to put them up there in, assuming you're not going to post them in Hebrew. If you are posting them in Hebrew, I'm going to ask, what's the point? It's not like most people can read or appreciate what they're saying anyway. But if you decide that you're going to put them up there, you need to pick one particular English translation to use. By doing so, the government's essentially said this is the endorsed or the correct translation over and against any other. That creates a problem. Another problem that's created is the problem of numbering. As you can see, Christians have had some argument over this throughout the years. Catholics and Lutherans tend to go after the method of numbering that St. Augustine came up with, while Orthodox and other Protestant Christians, like the tradition I belong to, number them in the way that you can see right over here. Different still than either of these, a lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters have yet another numbering system for the commandments. And by separating them or spacing them out in one particular way, the state would be saying that's the right way. That's how the commandments are to be read. There are the 10 of them. I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable with that. Even if they happen to pick the 10 the way I like the 10, and the translation that I happen to like to use, odds are you're not going to be too happy with it. Now, that having been said, the other thing that needs to be noted is there aren't just 10 commandments in the Old Testament. There's a total of 613 of them. You can check them out right here. Okay, I hope you can read fast. So you may wonder, why get hung up on these 10? Why get hung up on these 10 if there are all these 613 various and sundry different commandments to choose from? And I'll tell you why. When Jesus is asked in the 23rd chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, what is the most important command? Christ says, and this is a paraphrase, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commands hang all of the law and the prophets. Whereas the 10 commandments themselves aren't considered to be binding upon us by most Christians, they do serve as a great way of teasing out some of the implications of the summary of the law that Jesus gives to us. Traditionally speaking, the 10 commandments, the 2 tablets are divided on, talk to this point. The first tablet, right over here, the first tablet deals with the different ways in which we express our love for God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, and all our strength. The second of the 2 tablets helps give us an idea as to how it is we are to live with one another here in the world together. Now, another misconception we need to clear up about the 10 Commandments is that they're a drag, they're a bummer, they're no fun. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Look at them with all of their thou shalt not this and thou shalt not that. But if you give it some thought, thou shalt not is probably the least limiting way you can tell anybody to do anything. I mean, if I were to tell you right now, thou shalt not exit the room that we're virtually in right now through this window, all that I've done is close off one avenue of exit in a world of virtually limitless possibilities. I mean, you may not be aware of this, but there are 2 other doors in front of me right now. You could kick out the drop ceiling and get out over top of the wall. You could burrow through the floor. You could climb through the ductwork. You could find any one of a number of ways to get out of this room that do not involve going through this window. If I were to say to you positively, though, thou shalt exit this room through this window, what I've done is I have taken a world of limitless possibilities and condensed them down to only one. And God was quite intentional in delivering the commandments to us in the thou shalt not style. If you remember in Exodus chapter 20, where the 10 Commandments first come up in our tradition, God prefaces them by saying, I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You will have no other gods before me. That preface, establishing God as the deliverer of the children of Israel, is God's way of saying, I gave you your freedom. This makes me the foremost authority in the cosmos on the subject of human freedom. Not only am I a God of freedom, but I am a God who wants you to live your lives as free men. So if you wish to keep your freedom, here are 10 rules to follow that will help you to do that. And so over the next 10 weeks, we're going to take a look at the 10 Commandments with an eye towards how they will help us to live the free, loving, relational life that God has in store for us. Look forward to seeing you there.